I grew up living the chaotic brilliance of my city. Delhi encompasses togetherness and harmonious reflections on different cultures. These qualities are now an indelible fragment of my receptive attitude while learning and creating. Hi everyone, my name is Amrit. I'm 17 years old and I'm from New Delhi, India. I'm very keen about exploring visual culture and communication, and today I'd be talking about my experience with 35 Days of Gurmukhi, an initiative through which I practiced and experimented with one letter form every day. Everything odd and topsy-turvy attracted me, unresolved white spaces made me question, and social architects empowered me. All of this very naturally molded a love for imagination, use of images, visual metaphors, and of course, type. My response to this environment, where I never conformed to one cultural identity, became the initial purpose of this project, to arrive at something definitive. Since it started as a very personal attempt to connect with my authentic cultural background, which is Punjabi, a Southeast Asian cultural community, it piloted a very essential, compelling, and sensitive internal dialogue. Intuitively, I took on one letter form every day, thematically dividing it in rows. I gave these abstract ideas a tangible form. In row 1, it started with my mother and her kitchen. With steel glasses, spoons, confections, I created this. In row 2, I took old candies, forgotten keys, and tangled wires from my father's cupboard. Elements that have engaged with timelessly, found meaning in a really unfamiliar formation. In row 3, I paved my way back to art mediums I neglected when I was younger. Crumbled sheets, oil pastels, kid-safe paint. I progressed to find spaces outside these 4 safe walls that my parents created for me. I ventured the playground, curling around and messing in the grass like I was 8. In row 5, I brought in friends, puzzles, and fridge magnets, which are all about bringing something home, or maybe unraveling one in different places. And very finally, I connected these minute interactions which were outside my immediate sphere. Row 6 and 7 explored the most expansive realm out of all these themes. I went around the city making sense of shapes, sensitizing to different patterns, movements, and actions. This assisted in creating a visual vocabulary which manipulated and enhanced character of these letter forms. Conclusively, this project became an effort to comprehend the cultural evaluation of a regional script through the eyes of a young adult. Devanagari typescript serves as an auxiliary script for Gurmukhi. These letters were made with curvilinear features, sleek lines, and vivid colors. It's a complex writing system with glyphs and letters, but it holds the capacity to delineate typography with different moods and flavors. It's not very elaborate or charmed with embellishments. On the contrary, it's really honest and uncluttered. It's following shapes and forms that are obscure in nature. Gurmukhi embodies a very fresh and poetic calligraphic tone, and this led to a very didactic approach that achieved simplistic forms and tactile lines. Its representation was revelatory, dimensional, and conveyed quite symbolism. In 3rd and 4th century BC, Iranians who ruled Punjab brought Arami script that helped in the growth of Kharoshthi, which was an ancient Indian script used to write Gandhari Prakrit and Sanskrit. Alterations of the Brahmi script were also used alongside. Inscriptions of Kushan rulers and coins of Bactrian kings have both scripts on them. However, Brahmi became more popular because of its effortless curves and uncomplicated strokes, so it replaced Kharoshthi and became the essential script for literary and cultural activities in the Gupta period. It evolved into scripts like Kutil and then Siddha Matrika. Siddha Matrika was interpreted differently in North India. One of them was Nagari script, from where Sharda and Devanagari script evolved and presented themselves in coins minted in Lahore and Delhi. Through these progressions, Devanagari established a relationship with Gurmukhi. It also branched out to the scripts of northern and western India like Hindi, Gujarati, Marathi, Dogri. These scripts aren't identical but very alike. The angles and structural differences sets them apart, and a horizontal line along the top of these letters rhythmically ties them together. The effect that type has on its viewers is often characterized by cultural identity, and this link between culture and typography is an essential tool while determining shape and form and how type is to be perceived. The psychological and emotional meaning that this script encapsulates amplify its meaning, suggesting warmness and accessibility. By giving these concepts more depth, political and cultural value, its representation created more reason for expressing different kinds of tones. It's simpler to objectively understand what these authors did not represent. It did not assimilate different cultural influences. Rather, it threw significant light on the fact that there exist multiple underlying influences that contribute to creating a contemporary understanding of type. Unsurprisingly, regional scripts like Gurmukhi are on the verge of being lost. With very limited typefaces for Devanagari type script, these regional scripts lack variation. It has potential to form different ideas and a bridge between traditional knowledge and young people. Even if it's not an entirely academic paradigm, it strengthens voices and communicates nuances that could find a place in print and media. Its interpretation, with even different or slight alterations, could form powerful motifs. All of these writing systems and regional scripts are divergent, but these local variations are just as essential to understand the widespread literary knowledge and its utilization. And this kind of engagement with more young people can introduce tasteful postulations. The social and political impact of acknowledging these scripts will support dialectical inventiveness. These meticulous documentations could progress into something very unique. Multiculturalism doesn't essentially encourage forming collective identities. It mostly recognizes different social frameworks that exist in society. And in the context of type, this character really brings strong associative connections which are sensitive and conscious of its use. This ability to engage with more than one language or culture is what strings communities together. Sharing this experience and knowledge helps in evaluating current norms and systems and also increasing the possibilities for diversified visual impact. If language helps in constructing thought, written scripts carve these expressions and provides the armature around which the sculpture of reason and ideas is modeled. As these thoughts change, introducing new intentions and values, the design landscape learns to adapt. Typographic trends follow cultural relevance and lingual influence. It's honestly about the interplay of these tools that guides this unique sensibility. In my opinion, these differences and similarities in Indian scripts are not meant to be homogenized, but to communicate with less diverse barriers and yet still preserve culture and history. I think a more holistic educational outlook needs to be placed, where dialogue and engagement with regional scripts is initiated early on. This would not only support independent interpretations and constant usage of these writing systems, but also lead this process in a meaningful way. Indian scripts would not be standardized, but would come together like an orchestra. I didn't recognize these forms independently. This creative direction was largely instinctual, but I managed to create cohesive compositions. These deductions have contoured spaces to relearn and relive certain regional scripts that were forgotten to be passed on as folklore. I learned these contemporary tales based on old narratives as indispensable values that resemble new ideas, as unwritten thoughts that found solace in people and places.